Hey everyone, it's your study and welcome back to Comic Space. And with a lot of multiverse of madness happening all around us with Avengers Doomsday, Avengers Secret Wars, with the Fantastic Four First Steps, Doctor Strange 3, everything that is happening. But in another project that is setting up to be a major crossover and an Avengers level crossover, we are talking about Vision Quest series, which is setting up the West Coast Avengers team within the MCU, and it is going to be an insane show, which we also recently talked about, with James Spader officially coming back as Ultron, confirmed by Hollywood Reporter, and a lot of things are going to happen within it in major show. And we reached this point in the previous video as well. We did talk about it just a little bit. We had a lot of things to talk about with Ultron and with Wanda returning for sure. But let's talk about the West Coast Avengers, and with Marvel Studios has introduced all of the characters that I think they need to set up this team directly or indirectly, which again Marvel Studios was very thoughtful of what characters to introduce, and they knew they were going to head out with the West Coast Avengers team for sure. But we are still not sure what edition of the team they are gonna go for with the West Coast Avengers. Are they gonna go for much more of a classic one, or they are going to head with the Kate Bishop and America Chavez version of the West Coast Avengers? And obviously Vision is going to be the one who is going to lead this team of the West Coast Avengers, and it is going to be insane of a project. And again, I think one of the major things to talk about, Power Studios have introduced all of the needed characters, especially with the Wonder Man series coming out. You can also put Hawkeye in the mix, James Rhodes Iron Man. It has to be considered that Mouse Studios is still moving forward with that Armor Wars project or not. So again, I think that name will be on a seesaw for a little bit. But again, all of the characters that you need, I think the one character that we are missing is Tigera. And again, I think Mouse Studios can obviously introduce that character within that show only. So again, I think if you kind of look at it, and especially kind of the original lineup that Mouse Studios might go with, and even Moon Knight can be part of the West Coast Avengers because he was officially part of the West Coast Avengers in the comics. Anyhow, I don't think so that is going to happen, because they are for sure setting up the Midnight Suns project as well, which is also going to be a much more of a theatrical project that we are assuming. So again, Mouse Studios might like to go that way, especially with Moon Knight and with all of those kind of characters. But again, talking about the West Coast Avengers and Vision leading up the team and not joining the Avengers, Sam Wilson's our main Avengers team, which is again that he could because he was originally part of that team. But again, obviously Mouse Studios is not going to quoting Ken Feige, they are not going to have 10,000 characters showing up in Avengers Doomsday and Secret Wars. That is not happening. So obviously Marvel Studios is going to juggle all of these characters, and throughout the, and especially with Phase 4, where Marvel Studios was very focused with Disney Plus content and the quantity of the projects that they were putting out, which again has been gone through in some major reinfrastructuring within the company for sure, and the new strategy that they have covered with, that they are taking a break from all of that. But starting from Phase 4 and Phase 5 especially, Marvel Studios was setting up a lot of storylines adjacent to our main storyline, which is the Midnight Suns. Obviously that's that's why they are introducing characters like Moon Knight and Werewolf by Night, Black Knight, Blade, and obviously setting up the West Coast Avengers storylines and the Young Avengers storylines, which was officially confirmed at the end of the Marvels. So obviously they are just not introducing this character just to introduce them, but they obviously had plans for all of these characters and how they were going to converge at this one point. Because again, I think at some point they probably had a plan where they were like, we are actually going to do a full-length West Coast Avengers project and full-length Young Avengers film, which we did talk about, which was originally supposed to be a theatrical project, which Marvel Studios have taken a break from. So what Marvel Studios is doing, especially with all of the things that have happened, that they are deriving all of these projects that may not be that much necessary, or they may not like to put that much time, and they obviously need some quality and quantity control nowadays. And especially they are not gonna go around and throw that Avengers titles everywhere. They are going to be very critical about throwing the Avengers title, and they are going to be very critical about using that Avengers title for sure. And that's why they're obviously going to have these team ups with the West Coast Avengers and Young Avengers for sure. They're going to have that, but we are not sure they're actually going to do it in their own projects, as in separate projects, as the West Coast Avengers, as the Young Avengers, or they're just going to derive all of these storylines and this team up into in completely different things, and obviously Vision Quest, which is prominently going to be featured around Vision and him being the central point and leading up to the West Coast Avengers team up. And obviously Ultron is going to be part of that show in a major way, which obviously it lets us to think that he's going to be the main villain of the show. And again, with Elizabeth Olsen returning as Wanda, which is a completely different thing, because she's going to film an MCU project for sure next year, but we are not sure it is actually going to be with the Vision Quest series, because again, both of the Avengers films are gonna go into the production next year as well. We are going to have tons of things going into the production next year with Spider-Man 4 and everything. But again, I think coming back to this, the Marvel Studios is going to derive all of these things that they have already set up and had a completely different plan to adapt these storylines. But they are going to derive these stories and characters into a completely different projects, and obviously have to pay all of these characters off in some way. So again, moving forward with Vision Quest, with the Young Avengers projects, whatever that might turns out to be, as an even Disney Plus show that might be, or even a special presentation for that, say Marvel Studios is not moving forward with any of the projects rather than the actual Avengers films, as in theatrical projects which have Avengers in the name, Young Avengers or West Coast Avengers. They're going to be very critical about using that word in a theatrical project especially. I think it is going to be very interesting moving forward how all of these things are going to set up, and how Marvel Studios is going to pay off all of these characters that they have set up for sure, because initially they had some strong storylines in their mind. They knew where they needed to go with all of these characters that they had introduced. So again, a lot of things have changed along the way, and the detour of the Multiverse saga has been a quite thrilling ride as well. So I think it is time for me to see you guys off on this one. Well, that's it on this one, guys. But before you go, you can consider to grab the subscribe button so don't miss out on any of the latest Marvel or DC update. And we don't cover DC updates a lot nowadays because there are not a lot of DC things to cover, but we do cover DC stuff as well. So you can consider to grab the subscribe button out. Thanks for listening to me. I'm so glad that you guys got the time to hear me out. This is your host Adi signing off. See you in the next one.